Dogs are more than pets. They assist the blind, the emotionally troubled, people stuck in hospitals. Dogs do countless tasks in law enforcement, military operations, and national security. Now a bill in Congress would instruct the U.S. Mint to make coins that commemorate service dogs. Surcharges would go to an organization called America's VetDogs. More now from the president and CEO of America's VetDogs, John Miller. Mr. Miller, good to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom.
And your organization is concerned with those dogs that can help veterans in their needs and get them matched with dogs that can help the veteran with whatever his or her problems might happen to be.
Absolutely. So our organization, America's VetDogs, has been around for 20 years now. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. And we've placed over 1,000 dogs throughout the country, with veterans and first responders. We work throughout the country in all 50 states. And ultimately, our service is free of charge to all veterans and first responders. So it's a great service. And, we look forward to helping and, trying to keep working to get the bill all the way through the Congress.
And the status of the bill now, it has passed the House and now there's a Senate version?
Correct. Yep. So H.R. 807 passed last week. And now we're on to the Senate. These coin bills, as we've learned, have special rules. You need a certain number of co-sponsors before they'll act on them. In the House, we needed 290. We wound up right before the vote with 299. In the Senate, we need 67 co-sponsors. It's all bipartisan, on both the House and the Senate. And currently we're at 29, but we've really just gotten started.
And what would the bill specifically do?
So the bill, as you mentioned, authorizes the Mint, to create a 3-coin series that basically honors the service of working dogs and military dogs throughout the country. We had the opportunity to, be contacted by the House Financial Services Committee to determine our level of interest after they've done some vetting, if we'd be interested in working with them to get the co-sponsors necessary to get this across the finish line.
And do we know specifically what the coins would be? That is silver dollars or quarters or what?
All the final details are done once, the bill is actually, passed by the Senate and signed by the president. But, the House version, has, it's a 3-coin set, gold coins, silver coins, and what they call clad coins. They would have a different design on each, and you can buy them individually or as a set. But all of those, details really we don't get into until after it becomes reality.
Right, but what we know now, it won't be like quarters, like the states, or silver dollars.
Right, no. It'll be gold coins, silver coins, and what they call clad coins, which are fairly common in these collectible series that the mints produce.
Right, collectible series, and then we don't know what they would charge, but all of the money would go to your organization?
No. So the way it works is, there's a surcharge associated with, these coins. So each level of coin will have a surcharge associated. The Mint sets the pricing and the quantities. Once, the coin goes to market, we're anticipating if we stay on track here that this would happen in 2027. And so, for instance, I know the surcharge on the gold coins would be $35. That's what we would get. The Mint, and the government doesn't, really have any financial risk at this. They get fully paid back first. Once whatever it costs the Mint to produce, then, we would get the surcharges from the coins.
So, in other words, the surcharges are what dealers or resellers might charge on top of what the Mint basic price is?
Yeah, I think the surcharge starts with the Mint, the way I understand it. And so that's what our opportunity would be.
We're speaking with John Miller, President and CEO of America's VetDogs. But your release said that America's VetDogs would get all of the surcharges. There's lots of organizations that connect dogs and veterans and service members. How is it that just VetDogs of America is the recipient?
Yeah, so America's VetDogs, as I mentioned, was we were reached out to by the staffers from the House Financial Services Committee to determine our level of interest in working with them in the program. And we've spent quite a bit of time with our volunteers and our veterans up on Capitol Hill to ensure that we get the requisite number of co-sponsors and try to get it over the finish line, which we did in the House last week. So it's not something we were campaigning for or something like that. The opportunity came towards us, and we learned about what needed to be done and thought it would be a good idea for us to move forward.
And your organization has a pretty good ratio of benefit to overhead?
Yeah, we're at 82%. And if you look at all the stuff that we've done and some of the relationships, we've had, we have the highest ratings on, all of the charity watchdog, type of agencies. We're 4 stars on Charity Navigator, platinum on Candid. And we've had some opportunities to work in different government entities. We had one of the most famous dogs we've had was Sully H.W. Bush from former President George H.W. Bush towards the end of his life after Mrs. Bush had passed away. Sully's actually now at Walter Reed Medical Center. We've had your relationship with the Washington Capitals down there in D.C., and their second dog, Biscuit, is actually with Sully at Walter Reed. We have a facility dog, Charlie, over at the Pentagon. We're not new to this type of environment, and it's really interesting because as I mentioned earlier, everything we do is free of charge. So we have to basically raise almost every dollar we spend, and each dog costs us over $50,000 to get set. But every part of the process, from breeding to training to placing, to making the right match for the veteran and the dog, all of that is covered by the organization. So there's zero outlay from the veteran.
And how does it work, by the way? Someone is in need of a dog and they apply. Are all the dogs the same breed, like golden Labrador retrievers, or then where do the dogs themselves originate and how do they get trained and transferred to the recipient?
Sure. So we breed all the dogs that we use, and our breeds are predominantly Labs, Goldens, and crosses of Labs and Goldens. And that's predominantly because all of our training is positive reinforcement, which means food motivated. And those breeds, have the best temperament and take to the food-based training, the best we found in our history.
Wow. So you breed your own, and who trains them, and how do you do the match?
Yeah. So, it's actually a very, intricate process. We have the capacity to breed about 400 dogs a year. It's a 2-year cycle, for us. So we're breeding dogs now for a year from now. And when you look at the cycle, I'll run you through it. So for the first 8 weeks, the dogs are based, here with us, primarily on Long Island. We make sure that, they're healthy, well-adjusted, get their first set of shots, and, then we have one of two tracks, that we go on. Right, track one is we have about somewhere between 12 to 1,600 volunteers across the country who help us raise the dogs in their first year of life. Or alternatively, we have 14 different prison programs we work with throughout the country, and some of the best dogs, including Sully, have come out of prison. Sully came out of a prison in Maryland. So the dogs will be with them until about the 16-month part. It's not exact date specific. Each dog is a little different based on the cycles, and that's when the dogs will come back here and what we call in for training to be assessed, and that's really where the matching process begins. For instance, President Bush received Sully when later in his life after Mrs. Bush had passed, and the president was primarily in a wheelchair when he was out in public. So we needed a very certain type of dog for that, a very relaxed, very, let's say, chill type of dog to work with the president, as opposed to a gentleman who is usually with me on Capitol Hill, who happens to be an amputee but also now a competitive bodybuilder who leads a very active lifestyle. So we needed a very different type of dog for that gentleman. He needed a bigger, more energetic type of dog than Sully was. So that's really the key step in all of this, making sure we find the right match. Because if we would have matched those dogs the other way, it probably wouldn't have worked for either one. So we take a lot of time and effort there. And so once we know what that match is going to be, then we have professional, accredited trainers who we work with here who will train the dogs custom to what is needed for that veteran.
Interesting. Well, keep up the good work. John Miller is president and CEO of America's VetDogs. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Thank you, Tom.
And we'll post this interview along with a link to more information at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Unleash the Federal Drive. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.